Working together with Premier Wynne at Queen's Park, I think that our three governments are aligned on what it is we want to achieve. And so I'm looking forward to working with them in that regard. But of course, as the federal government looks to begin transferring funding to cities on an increased basis to pay for these large-scale projects, they will want assurances that this money is not going to disappear down a black hole. And so I will propose to the City Council that we introduce the City Building Fund, a designated capital fund for transit and housing based on an idea actually put forward years ago by Councillor David Shiner. Money that is directed to the City Building Fund will be dedicated to priority projects in those two streams, transit and housing. It will be transparent. It will lead to more discipline and planning and accountability, and it will, I would say at last, allow for a proper separate examination of the operating budget of the city and its capital budget and the investments required pursuant to that capital budget. If we want to build specific things to improve the way people move and live in Toronto, we all have to do our part. And so I will also be looking to my council colleagues for them to suggest ways, and the public service and people outside, including yourselves, to suggest other ways in which we can fund this city building fund beyond the monies of the other governments and what I'm going to talk about in a moment, which is this. I will also be proposing to City Council that we introduce a modest levy starting in 2017 when the current Scarborough subway levy is to expire. This levy would last for just 5 years, beginning in 2017. And would see Toronto homeowners contributing approximately $13 per year, which would go directly in to this city building fund to fund the per year. A lot more than that, of course, taken over time to the city building fund. And that will be added to the money from the other governments and other sources that may be suggested by people in this room and elsewhere. And we will then be much better able to pay for transit and housing projects across Toronto, just as we're now using that kind of a levy put in place by my predecessor to finance the construction of a subway in Scarborough. I believe, ladies and gentlemen, on these things we have to act now. And that means making decisions now to build for the future. And not just making the decisions to build and picking the projects, but making the decisions of how we're going to fund them. It means backing those decisions up with the money needed to make them happen. I am prepared to move forward, as I've indicated today, and put some proposals in front of my council colleagues to make both of those things happen. Getting the projects done and determining how we can make our contribution to paying for them. But I will need help from city staff, from council, and from each and every one of you. I believe this approach is necessary, and I believe it makes sense. And I'm looking forward in particular, as I start my second year today, to getting on with it. Thank you very much.